sadly today's teenagers are also exhibiting a lot of self-harm tendencies, a lot of suicidal thoughts, and there's also the dark side of the internet which pushes them towards telling that this is okay, it's okay to have self-harm thoughts and all of that. Yogastak kuru karmani sangam tektva dhananjaya siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchate. Samatvam is the highest yoga, being in that equipoise. What we see is people who are mentally aware, irrespective of ups or downs, irrespective of successes or failure. She writes telling why these instant dopamine hits are extremely working against our youngsters, and that's where depression could end up becoming a huge next epidemic. AI is supposed to help us, right? Ideally. So many kids are open to taking psychiatric medicines these days, and so many parents are willing to support. But even parents don't understand the depth of self-harm thoughts that their child has. ChatGPT knows.
Yeah.
The parents don't know.
Hey there. Welcome to MVP, Maximum Viable Podcast, and I'm your host Vanshika. Today, we are talking about a topic that never makes it to the boardroom agenda, but can actually make or break a company. That is mental wellness. A recent global study actually showed that 82% of the people are on the verge of burnout, and that includes people at the top, the leaders, the builders, the founders. So on the outside, it may all look good, but on the inside they may be running on fumes. So joining me is someone who's seen this space inside out. She's a multiple award-winning leadership and wellness coach and founder of Shreehi Consulting. She blends science, psychology, ancient Indian wisdom, and I cannot wait for you to take nuggets out of this. So let's dive right into it. So welcome Anurama ma'am. We are so glad to have you here with us. We've already kind of felt your energy, super happy. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much.
Awesome, perfect. So today, as we're going to speak about the silent enemy, the silent pullback that every leader, every person probably faces in their life, the mental wellness, mental issues that people go through. So we would want to really take this conversation there. But before we really dive into the topic, would love to understand your journey. How did you move from your corporate tech career? How did you pivot into wellness space, and how did it transpire?
Okay. So I come from a middle class family. So the script is that both the partners in the family work to grow the children and all of that. That's a written script in the entire of my extended family as well, not just my parents. So at some point when I got married and I was settling down in life, I thought, okay, I need to work no matter what. And with both daughters, IT was actually going really well for me. But then I realized that it was not a cut 9 to 5 kind of a job, right? IT flows towards the later part of the day also. There were a lot of times I realized that I was overcome with the guilt that I'm not playing my dharma as a mother. I was stern. I was always in the dharma sankatam that I'm doing my best at my career also. I need to do that. If I'm looking at the next promotion, if I'm looking at the next KRA coming out really well. But what about my children? When I don't have the extended family support or whatever, how am I going to manage them and all of that? So it was a lot of pull and push there. I would even say that at some point I was literally in depression, that I was not able to give the best of both the worlds.
Right.
And I have a very supportive husband, so we had very long conversations on this, and we even put down Excel sheets to say who can quit at this point of time. And so we went with the call that okay, I will take the break initially. I will follow my heart and see what works out for me, where I can balance the kids also and do what I can do.
Right.
So I initially, once I settled in the family, once I, was little settled, happy homemaker, I started looking for work from home kind of positions to see, can I keep the little hours when the kids are off to school, can I keep it occupied? And I'd gone for a mobile application developer role in a company which was into coaching. I'm talking about way back in 2010.
Wow.
And the CEO, who interviewed me, he said, you have good mobile application development skills. I don't say no, but you can make a great coach. Have you ever considered that? And that was like, someone really showing the light to me, to the path that, which will be so meaningful for me after that. So no turning back after that.
Wow, that is, I do feel that, certain people, they just come into your life to just give you that nudge.
Seriously.
And after that, it's so. But I would want to really understand probably a little more in depth as to how did that pivot look like for you? Because there's enough people I know and would be there watching this probably who would be in the career and they know they have this urge in their heart that they want to do something of their own, they want to take that leap. But how does that leap look like? How did it look like for you?
It's not fancy. It was not exotic.
Talk about it, yeah.
It was all the more painful not getting the monthly fancy paycheck, right?
The cushion.
And the cushion, exactly what it gave. So initially, for me, the target was that I should not become a burden for my husband, and later, can I add little value, in financial value also, into the family and all of that. So that's why I even looked at the work from home kind of an opportunity and all of that. So the initial year when I got into the company, working for the company, and I did all the courses that my CEO recommended me to do. He was literally like a mentor, a brother who held my hand and showed me the path. But it so happened that 1 year down the line, the company collapsed. The CEO expired, and I was back to square one. And I had no clue what to do. It was like, how do I start on my own? There was no company backing me or whatever. So when I was asking my husband, do I get back to IT? What do I do? He said, no, you're sleeping really well. You're so happy. You're so available. You're bringing the light back to home these days. Your presence makes a difference. Continue doing what you're doing, no? And and I think that was enough for me to, get onto this. The initial 4-5 years, at least 2015 till 2015 was extremely difficult. 2010 to the initial few years of 2010 to 2015 was extremely difficult because even to talk to my clients, that I had done my NLP coach certification by then. I was already working as an executive coach when I was with the company, but when I went back to some of my old clients where it was extremely successful for them and asked for a LinkedIn review, many people said no. And
they
when
want to highlight that they did it.
Exactly. And when I wanted to start doing workshops or reach out to clients, I was also having this limiting belief of, I'm in a service space. Right. How can I ask money for, it's what if people consider this is just advice? Free advice always floats in India, right?
Correct.
But I realized that's not what I was doing. I was not giving advice. I was trained in the coaching methodology. So I was only, facilitating people to uncover their own inner resources. So I knew the value of what I was offering, but still it was not an easy journey, Vanshika. I know in the initial days, at least even in 2012, 2013, I know that, when a client calls, I would have done an elaborate intake call. And then when I have to actually say, this is what I charge, I'll blurt out very quickly. Even I would not have heard the number.
Consciously, you're like, I don't know if I should be charging this.
Exactly. So it took some coaching. I had to go through some coaching to overcome that belief. That was another script that was passed on to me in my family, that service-oriented people have to, always offer their services free.
Right.
And then, I very clearly remember my senior coach asking me if there were two doctors, doing open heart surgery. One says they're doing it free, the other says they're going to charge 3.5 lakhs. Which one would you go to?
Wow.
So stuff like that gave me clarity. But gradually I realized over a point of time when I positioned myself telling this is what I'm doing and this is what I'm charging for what I'm doing, people started respecting my time. People started respecting the value of what I'm bringing into the conversation. And I also got a nice foothold into family business. So initially when I started off into the coaching, it was almost like, I was working with IT executives and most of them had psychosomatic issues. So I'll be working on their beliefs. They would have come to me for migraine headaches. I'll work on their belief and then I'll realize that, we will get to realize that they are having a lot of inner criticism. They're scolding themselves left, right, center. People with a lot of ulcer issues, there'll be a lot of anger. So I was able to see the psychosomatic connections really well. In fact, one book that I held on very closely, which helped me initially, was You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. In fact, that book helped me to understand, and rewrite so much of my script around money, script around relationships, script around, my own success in life and all of that. So I started using the book also as a Bible when it comes for people and their psychosomatic illnesses. And I was able to see the emotional struggle of what they are going through. And it so happened that in the initial years from 2014 to 2016, there was a lot of fertility successes that was happening in my clients. People, who would have come in, telling that, okay, I'm not able to move ahead in my career, or, there are issues with my mother-in-law and me or whatever, IT executives. I would have worked with them, and 2-3 sessions they would have uncovered that their core issue is that they're not able to conceive, and I would have taken them through visualization. I have a process-driven coaching methodology for fertility coaching now with years of experience, but in those days it was just getting crafted. It was still in the in the initial days, but we saw that fertility success was happening. And it so happened that I registered my company because I was also doing corporate trainings, and I had to have I can't be a freelancer beyond a point, right? So I registered my company the same year that I registered my company. 2016 March is when I registered my company, and November 2016 IIMB launches its first cohort for women startup women entrepreneurs program. And I was in the first cohort where there were almost some 37,000 women who participated in the initial MOOC. And from there, they distilled down and selected 50 women to get into the boot camp. And 15 were selected for incubation. I was one of the top 15.
Wow, that is amazing.
Yeah. And so, getting mentored from the senior professors in IIMB helped me understand that this is my core strength and I can build my team, and, I can grow more. And at some point, I realized that fertility coaching is still a wing, but family business coaching became a much stronger wing. There are so many family businesses that I work with today on a one-to-one business, on a one-to-one basis, and to bring the family into alignment, the stakeholders into alignment and all of that. So that's very interesting work, actually.
No, so I would honestly want to reel in more into how you mentioned about you've done this work and then you would ask them for like a LinkedIn review or something. Why do you think still it is seen as like a stigma kind of a thing that you cannot openly express that you're going through something like this, and you have probably taken help for that, right? And if we see the numbers, it's like 80% of the people are actually literally going through this, correct?
You're right.
So what do you think is the psychology behind it?
I feel youngsters these days, Gen Z people, are much open in terms of talking about their vulnerabilities. Most of them are empaths, and they are able to give a review very openly.
Right.
So when I go back to my Gen Z clients and ask them for a review, they would actually write elaborately about the depression, the struggle they went through, and what helped, how the sessions helped them overcome. Whereas when I go back to the previous generation people, they would actually create a separate Gmail ID to put a 5-star rating there. So there's always the fear of what if someone from the family sees, what if a friend gets to know that I was going through a serious mental health crisis. People should not judge me. Oh, I'm such a senior leader.
Yeah.
I cannot tell to people that I was in crazy burnout at that time. So there's a lot of fear in trying to put up that I'm the strong person facade.
Again, I think it is also a lot of the place that they're coming from, the conditioning that they've had. It probably is instilled that you are weak if you are being expressed like this. But again, they are going to be with us for a while. I mean, with newer generations coming in, yes, they are now working differently. But for those people who are still probably in that mindset, who are probably conditioned in a certain way, but can you give some suggestions as to how can they break out their mental frameworks regarding this, or probably how do they not see it as like a weakness and probably be more open about this in the public space?
I would say than in the public space, even if they are first of all truthful to themselves.
Yeah.
Many a times I see when I work with very senior leaders in the organization, right, when I ask them how are you feeling, they'll have binary answers. I'm doing good, I'm doing bad. So I would have asked, how are you feeling?
This or that.
They do not even talk a feeling word there.
Yes.
Many a times that emotional intelligence that we are talking about, even getting in tune with themselves to know, oh, I'm feeling sad now, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling restless. Even naming those emotions will make us understand how much of negative emotions are overpowering us in a day.
Correct.
Now that awareness is not so much there out there in our leaders today. Though many companies are doing training on EI and all of that, we still see that as a struggle there. And when they are not aware of what they are going through, right, naturally they'll not understand the importance of why mental wellness is required, or why is it that their team, youngsters in the team, are talking so openly about depression, or why are they so gaga about mental health.
That is true. Yeah. For them the connect is not there.
Exactly.
And I think that is what is happening a lot of corporates. They're like, this Gen Z culture we are not liking, but probably they're coming from a different bent of thought process and all of it than the leaders, senior leaders.
In fact, Anita Moorjani has written a book called Sensitive is the New Strong. I see that many Gen Z people own up to that. They are okay expressing their vulnerabilities. They're actually redefining to say vulnerability is a new strength. And
that is true, don't you think?
That is extremely true, and I wish even older leaders understand that
Yeah.
and start owning up their vulnerabilities. If I were to give an example, Vanshika,
Yeah.
those celebrities that you look up to, right, self-made celebrities, we long to know what was their failure stories, how did
Correct.
they fall down, how did they get back to their feet, what kept them going, right? Those stories is what motivates us. But imagine if our leaders are not sharing such stories, they're just telling, oh, everything worked out well for me, I just went from strength to strength to strength. That's not the reality, right?
That is
And Gen Z people can see through it. They're like, no, we are failing pathetically. Tell us you would have failed.
That is true. And at the same time, again, it's not about, showing how perfect your life is, because it ideally cannot be. Life is about the ups and the downs and the journey you go through. So even if you're putting like that strong front forward, right, what's the point? Because everyone knows what life is about, end of the day.
Yeah.
Which brings me to another question that, again, in our offices, around people, how do you really differentiate between someone who's actually mentally well? And again, I say this in a very positive light, in the sense that, because again, we all are facing burnouts. It's not a new thing. I think now everyone is just a little more vocal about, okay, there is something called as burnout and we are going through it. So how do you think, like, let's say if someone is consciously not aware, but they're in your company, how do you, is there a mechanism, is there a way we can identify the people who are actually probably going through it? And once that identification has happened, how do you help them?
I'm going back to my favorite scripture, Bhagavad Gita. Shri Krishna says, Yogastak kuru karmani sangam tektva dhananjaya siddhi siddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchate.
Wow.
The samatvam is the highest yoga, being in that equipoise. What we see is people who are mentally aware, irrespective of ups or downs, irrespective of successes or failure, they are in that equipoise.
Right.
They don't get so swayed, they don't jump so much and keep partying for their successes.
Right.
They don't go so much into depression for their failure. They know, okay, they understand the dvandva at some point of time, and they get to that inner equipoise, that inner equilibrium. And if that is maintained, that's a very clear giveaway that, okay, this person is mentally aware and they know
Right.
what they are doing. They're owning up their swadharma. They're
Right.
living up to it.
Can we also say that it is also about how you don't let others or external situations control you, or your moods or your emotions? You know what you are, who you are, where you are. Yes, this is a bad situation. Yes, this is a good situation. But someone who's probably being more balanced about it is someone who's like actually doing well in that space.
Yeah, see, someone who is more balanced understands that the door to happiness only opens inwards.
Correct.
We might have so many materialistic goals that we are setting, quantitatively trying to tick each one, but the qualitative aspect of life, they know, am I fulfilled, am I feeling good, am I in the right path, am I able to sleep peacefully?
Yeah.
That's a major
Yes.
giveaway to know, are we even peaceful about ourselves?
Yes.
Are we owning up our swara really well? Right?
Right.
Everyone have our own USPs, right? Our own unique strengths.
Yeah.
So how much am I owning that up?
So, would you say that, again, I'm just trying to anchor in some traits and behavior for people, if they can probably relate it with their lives. Would you say that in a phase wherein probably you start getting, insomnia, or, things like I'm not able to be at my best, etc., are these starting signs of saying that you are probably going towards not being mentally very well and healthy? Can these people take these things as cues to understand?
One is insomnia. The other thing I would say is restlessness. If they are noticing that they are being very restless, it could be a client call, it could be a difficult situation. But if they are able to anchor to their breath or come back to a rested space, they would be able to handle the challenge much better. So insomnia, restlessness, unnecessary palpitations, right? Too much of anxiety, panic attacks. These are all very clear giveaways. Sadly, today's teenagers are also exhibiting a lot of self-harm tendencies,
Right.
a lot of suicidal thoughts, and there's also the dark side of the internet, which pushes them towards telling that this is okay. It's okay to have self-harm thoughts and all of that. So these are all clear warning signs that we need to look out to. And
I do have like a probably contrasting question here though. So again, see, it is as simple as when you are aware of something is when you can observe it, notice it, etc., etc. So while we are seeing in Gen Zs or younger generations that they're more aware about mental wellness, they're more aware about. But do you think it is also making them fall into that spiral a little more, because sometimes, I mean, again, thinking about my parents' generations or my grandparents, stress was nothing for them. Anxiety didn't exist. The word was not recognized.
Exactly.
They probably were going through it, came out of it, life happened, went on and about. Yes, there are extreme cases, but from what I know and I understand, most of the people, because they were not aware of certain concepts, it did not play that much into them. So do you think this much of awareness is also somehow backfiring?
For sure, right? Ignorance is bliss. We are currently bombarded with hyper information,
Yeah.
which we don't even need. The way that everything is a breaking news, we don't need to know what happens in the other corner of the world instantly, right?
That is true.
Yeah. So, in fact, the sad reality, as you say, is our kids are addicted to instant dopamine.
Yeah.
In nowadays, even in our parents' days or nowadays, we used to wait for one Chitrahar. We used to wait for one or two serials which will come in DD, or one documentary movie which they will relay on a Sunday afternoon, so that there was a delayed gratification in getting that. There'll be one birthday for which we'll be waiting for a new dress. It's not the case in today's generation,
Yeah.
right? And
They
every
have it very hands-on.
exactly, we have the Swiggies and Zomatos and the Mintras and everything of the world, right? Whatever we
Yeah.
want, we'll get it instantly. And all of the Instagram reels or YouTube shops that we keep watching, everything hits on that dopamine, instant dopamine hits. In fact, the book written by Dr. Anna Lamke, it's called The Dopamine Nation. She writes telling why these instant dopamine hits are extremely working against our youngsters, and that's where depression could end up becoming a huge next epidemic.
Wow. Is it, again, I mean, we already see so many people being very vocal about it, but I also see, again, I don't know if it is the right thing or not, but I also see people like boasting a little, hey, dude, I was depressed, it happened and all. Now, depression is such a big word, I feel, and it is taken very lightly, casually, like it is just a regular day thing that, okay, I was in depression and this happened. So, again, do you think it is also playing in the psychology of.
It is. You're right there, it is. And at times people don't understand nuances of certain things. Like, for example, if someone licks and eats Nutella from a spoon, they say, oh, I'm such a OCD person, I make it so clean.
Right.
They don't know the pain of what a OCD person goes through. OCD is obsessive
Correct.
compulsive
You don't even
disorder.
know the depth of what
You
it
don't know the
means.
depth of what it means. You don't
Yeah.
know the depth of the pain that the person is going through and the struggle that the family is going through. So people just like that use terms like this, or if they want to commend their friends, they say, oh, you're such a bipolar person.
Yeah.
You're very happy once and you go very moody at the other time. Those are not terms to be used playfully,
Right.
but they don't understand it. It's in a way it's very demeaning to the mental health industry, and it's demeaning to the person who's actually going through the struggle.
I agree. Talking about this, so again, I think one of the breed of people, entrepreneurs, are the ones who are most exposed, because to all these, because they are like maximum people. They start with being like a one-man army, and again, seeing the success rate of startups today in India in a very like not great way, right? So what do you think as founders, how do you kind of go about starting your journey in the entire entrepreneurial path, to make sure that you kind of avoid as much mental whatever can be avoided?
The entrepreneurial journey is a very, very lonely journey. And
Yeah.
the difference that, at least for me, when I was in my IT world, I was longing for coffee breaks or lunch breaks to, sit and I would probably be grumbling about that particular project or my manager, and one of my friends would be from a very different team and she'll grumble about our manager, or we'll sit and grumble about our mother-in-law, something. It's somewhere it'll give the feeling that, okay, you are in the same boat, I'm in the same boat, okay, now we can go back to handling our battles.
Yeah.
But entrepreneurial journey is literally like, everybody becomes that Arjuna trying to understand their strength,
Yeah.
trying to fight their battles, but they don't have a Krishna to back on. It's like
That
they are
is
put in their Kurukshetra repeatedly, and it's a very painful thing if you don't have a support system there.
Right.
And many people, the families also don't understand it. If it's a male, who's getting into the entrepreneurial journey, he's expected to bring in the same money that he brought in as a paycheck. And for the lady, she's expected to balance the children also and do the entrepreneurial journey full.
Yeah.
It is never possible. A new company and an entrepreneurial venture is literally like another baby, right? At least the first 1 or 2 years, you need to give that amount of energy, time, care, like how you will nurture a baby. It's extremely challenging when we don't have the right support system.
Right. And again, with this, because you know, spoke about this. I don't want to again differentiate a lot in men and women here, but biologically we know it's two different journeys for all of us. We cannot help it. No one can kind of, like do anything about it. It's just how things are, right? So if I were to ask you, and because you are also like a trained, coach in NLP, and you have done past life regression and all, so with that understanding and knowledge, uh how would you suggest, because again I don't think so it can be one mantra for everybody.
Exactly.
So if we were to, like, just for the sake of this context, if we were to differentiate in, okay, this is the right thing for women and this is the right thing for men, can you give us context on how both of them can navigate based on how they are
See, women
designed?
are by default very intuitive,
Right.
right? But many women are not trained to bank on their intuition.
Right.
If only they could do that, life will start working in their favor. And for men, if they could start owning up their vulnerabilities and to start actually talking their emotions and express that this particular thing is making me feel so helpless, or I'm feeling lonely, I'm feeling like people in my own family are not understanding me, openly expressing those will actually bring people together.
Right.
As you rightly said, right, everybody's journey is different, and even between men and women, each individual's journey is very different. Right. So it is all about how do we understand our struggles, how do we understand our strengths, and how do we anchor more into our strengths.
So as a corporate, as a big company, right? If there was some changes, structural changes, or some activities, probably, if someone were to induce in their system to make sure that there is, equity. I will not say equality, because again, I don't think so. It does justice to again how things are structured. But if for men and women and so on, everybody inclusive, all genders inclusive, right? What would you suggest? Let's say top three activities or structures that probably these corporates could induce to make sure that the mental wellness issues are, resolved as much as possible, and it becomes like a more like happier space.
I feel, because I work closely in the fertility space also, right? I feel especially corporates can be little more lighter on women who are returning from a maternity break.
Okay.
And at least those 1 or 2 years, if they could go a little kinder with that lady and not put her into what I see generally happening in the corporates is, we paid you those 9 months or 1 year of break that you took. Now you better work
Return.
double and give that money back, earn the revenue back. And that's an unfair ask many a times. This is a very invisible ask. It's
Correct.
like, in many corporates, it's all about addressing the invisible elephant which is there in the room, right? And they know what they are doing.
Yeah.
And when it comes for the men also, right, when they see that a man is either being very obese, or being very restless, or being extremely angry, or it's irrespective of the gender, right? When we see that a person's emotions are all over the place, there are some companies which are recognizing and calling external coaches. So I hold an ICF PCC accreditation, so I work with many companies as an external coach.
Right.
And so what they see as a difference is, if it's an inner coach, coach from within the company, there's only so much that the leader is able to open up to, or express their vulnerability or whatever. They feel much more safe when it's an external coach who's coming and working with them, and they're able to talk about their fears, they're able to talk about their insecurities, and they're able to figure out their own solutions. That space, if that's provided more and more, for our own executives, right, nothing like it.
To this aspect with AI coming in now, right? We are already seeing, a shift in terms of layoffs happening a lot. We're already seeing that job market is kind of, probably at the worst. With that, if again, and so I personally think that, mental wellness, when it's kind of in companies is there, it's also seen as less productive, because people are, actually it is not, when you're mentally well, you ideally are more productive, but I think it's perceived in such a way that, it's become so competitive. AI is coming in, people are like, so people want to now work more extra, they want to give in those hours, and with that, how do you then balance this, mental wellness aspect, even in terms of productivity and efficiency and ROI for the corporates? Like, how do you think with this new aspects getting introduced into the system, this all will cohesively work?
See, AI is supposed to help us, right?
Ideally.
But realistically, the reality is that the more and more we're getting caught into that, melodrama, and not seeing for what it is. So somewhere it will be good for each executive, each individual to understand, this is my threshold. I'm not going to work beyond this particular set time, or where is my boundary? How do I stick to my boundary? What's a no, and how do I stand by my no? Right? Because many a times within the fear of, what if AI takes over my job, what I'm noticing from a psychological aspect, earlier it was only so the ego survival mechanisms, earlier it was more of fight or flight. We either fight with our superiors, fight with our own team, or we try to avoid conflicts, we try to leave this thing. But currently what's happening is there's a lot of freeze and fawn happening in people. When we say freeze, there's a lot of numbness, a lot of dissociation. People are using more of you language when they're talking about themselves. You know what happens when you're so panicky, your heart beats a lot, they'll be talking about
themselves. Yeah.
Right? So there's a lot of freeze happening, and there's a lot of fawn. The fawn is where you're being abused, violated, but then the person puts themselves into that situation repeatedly. They know that maximum 10 o'clock is their cut-off time. They have to sleep. If they don't sleep by 10:30, they're not going to sleep the entire night. So if the client is asking for a call at 11:15, this person has to say, no boss, it cannot be US time always. It's a no for me. 10:15 is my cutoff. I can't work beyond that. Owning that up and talking that out requires some amount of courage.
Correct.
When people don't do that, they exhibit that fawn tendency repeatedly, and that works completely. Our nervous system coils in a particular way, and it puts us in a space where we are always in that fear mode. We are always looking for just survival. When are we going to thrive, flourish? When are we going to live up to our true selves?
Correct. And I think this literally directly affects the productivity of a person and of the organization.
Definitely.
And so instead not focusing on this is worse, way worse, then probably give it some time and space and make sure things are kind of in balance.
Yeah.
Which brings me to understanding again, because I know you come from a very spiritual, bent and all. How much role, because I think now we are becoming more and more aware of what spirituality is. People are now inclining more towards accepting it. Again, it was also a stigma. I think sometime before people would see it as hoo-ha of the worlds, but now it is more accepted. So how do you think introducing that into, let's say, a person's life, a company's life, probably for founders, what role does it play? What differences have you seen in probably people that you have worked with?
I've seen that spirituality gives a much deeper anchor. So when I say anchor, it's that beyond the point, when we are holding on to spirituality deep within, we know that whatever life is pulling us, whatever we are swayed, we know that there's an anchor that we can hold on internally. Right? We go back to that space of equipoise that I spoke about earlier. We go back to that samatvam repeatedly, and that is something only spirituality can give. It could be mindfulness, it could be taking deep breaths, or it could be holding on to some scriptures.
Right.
It could be doing meditation, one or the other form, which is helping us sit with ourselves. What I'm seeing as the biggest fear in today's world is people are scared to sit with themselves. They're running away from themselves.
That is the most scariest
exactly
thing to do.
How long can we do that?
That is true. So I was in one of the meditation courses, and we were made to sit with ourselves for 50 minutes. And again, I would not say that it works in one go for everybody, but realizing the importance of it, because I think there is so much internal dialogue that's going on. Which we don't pay attention to.
Exactly.
I think to so many problems, the answer is there. And you can probably channel it once you're... So again, for people who are not aware of this, to get started, can you give a technique, a way or something that people can probably start incorporating into their lives?
Something as simple as, whenever we are turning on our phone, it could be for checking WhatsApp, Instagram, calling a person or whatever. Every time you turn on your phone, take 3 conscious deep breaths. Every time you turn off your phone and keep it down, take 3 conscious deep breaths. Just 3 conscious deep breaths.
Right.
Enough. It starts creating a pause between us and our emotions. It starts creating the space between, why am I running so much? Where is this mad rat race? Why am I caught into this? We start gradually becoming an observer. Breath is an amazing portal. Like what Eckhart Tolle writes in The Power of Now, right? If we are able to bank on just conscious breath, to start with, nothing like it. It can take us to the next layer in spirituality and open so many portals for us.
That is so true. Again, in terms of, I think this is more on the lines of how do you layer it in your daily routine and how do you kind of, bring it into practice. But for, can we just also look at if people who are probably slightly introduced to spirituality, what would be the tools that you would suggest are the most productive? Because I know that you've seen enough, tools when it comes to, again, such a big subject, right? Enough tools. So in terms of a working professional or a founder or someone who is in the grind per se, right? They're in that pressure. What are the immediate tools that you recommend to begin with, in the sense of how do you like really scale up in that level?
When I work with family business, be it the senior most chairman in the family business, or the juniors there, or senior executives or whatever, I notice how much they are only sitting, how much are they moving their body and talking, how much are they comfortable in moving. Because when we are so stagnant, just sitting and doing all the work, our energy also gets stuck. So,
Right.
so introducing movement in one way or the other, right? It could be yoga, it could be dance, it could be aerobics, it could be playing just a game of tennis.
Right.
Something as simple as that.
A
Some
dedicated
movement,
time for,
a
like-
dedicated time away from phone.
Away from makes sense.
Yeah, because that's when we start understanding that the body keeps the score always. So only when we use the body we can also heal ourselves.
Right.
Currently we are all moving around as if we are just people with head and two hands. We're only intellectuals and we are doing the work no matter what. We don't actually look at what is our heart telling us, what is our gut telling us, what is our body calling attention to. And when our body is repeatedly falling sick, it's the body's way of telling, hello boss, you're going in the wrong direction, take a U-turn, attend to me, take care of yourselves differently.
So while I did ask you, in terms of this, I would love to understand what was that one practice for you personally in your life, probably before you got deeper into spirituality or after it, that you were like, this is what changed things for me.
So for me, I read a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron.
Wow.
And she talks about writing morning pages, 3 pages every day morning. So that was a practice which I initially thought, what big deal it's going to do, writing 3 pages in the morning.
Yeah.
But I still took it as a challenge. And, as soon as I kept my alarm so that I'll wake up 30 minutes early when compared to my family. When they're sleeping, I'll do my...
So you could do this practice.
I could do it without
also
anyone's
like journaling
disturbance.
in a way?
Journaling really helps. But for me, since you asked my specific practice,
Yeah.
for me, what I have noticed is in that morning, having a cup of hot filter coffee next to me and blurting out those 3 pages, I'm just literally dumping all my thoughts onto the paper.
Wow.
And when I do that, the entire day I see that my mind is blank. It's 100% present with my clients.
Wow.
When I'm with my clients, I'm not thinking about my past or future or worried about what question do I need to ask next. I'm there. I was not able to do this till the time that I was doing the morning pages. So I was able to see the shift of, it's a small practice, a half an hour, but it brought a lot of difference qualitatively into my life.
And did you observe that after a while you didn't have a lot to write or something?
No. Every day, even now when I go back to my pages, every day there'll be stuff that will come up as I write. And the more I'm writing, the more I'm emptying the cabinets of my mind, right? Where unnecessary, unwanted scripts are still there. It's literally doing it with a lot of curiosity. Say, oh, you're still there.
Nice. So how can people bring in the space for others in the company and around them to see talking about their mental wellness as a strength and not as a weakness? And how do we bring about that leadership shift? Because again, for leaders specifically, I think it's the hardest to kind of be vulnerable in front of the juniors, in front of their people, because they want to be as someone who's like perfect ideal to look up to, right? But how do we kind of bring about that mind shift? What we all as people here in the ecosystem can do about it?
I would always tell, go back to the mirror, look at yourself and start calling out those things where you feel you've done really good. Because currently we are living in a world where nobody puts a stage and calls us and appreciates us for all the small things that we took care of on a day-to-day basis, right? And for leaders, they're always in that in the direct this thing under the funnel. So they're always, people call out and say, oh, this project didn't go well, oh, this particular order didn't come through, you could have added a 500 billion to the company, and see, because of that wrong conversation it went through. So they're always on hearing a lot of criticism. And if they have to go and share vulnerabilities with their team, how can they do it overnight when all they're hearing is only criticism? So they need to, give double, triple scopes of self-love and self-acceptance that, this is a hard life. and they are in the line of fire repeatedly. So someone has to be there to tell them that, hey, it's okay, and pat on the back, right? Only we can do it to ourselves. So I would say if leaders could take time. See, we all have, in all fancy offices, we have lovely mirrors in the restroom. Go stand there in front
Get
of
the best mirror out there.
Exactly. Or carry a small mirror in your hand, or put at least the phone in the selfie mode and tell, I know this call was difficult, but you did a great job. I'm so
or
proud
probably
of
like
you.
a mirror with an affirmation. You've
Something.
got this.
Something.
It's not a weakness.
Yeah. You could do this, and I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
We all need to hear that from our own voice. I'm proud of you.
I agree. 100%.
And I believe if we could do that to ourselves, we will be doing that to our team. Because Dr. Wayne Dyer says you can't give what you don't have. If leaders don't have self-love, acceptance, how are they going to express their vulnerability? How are they going to give love and acceptance for their team members? They can't do it.
Correct.
It's very impossible for them. So it has to start the other way around, right?
I agree. And with AI coming in again, I have seen, I've also done it. I have seen enough people go to GPT, okay, and be like, I mean, it's a good conversation always with GPT, kind of, okay. But in terms of, I mean, I just want a very unbiased take on this because I have seen it help me. I've heard a lot of my friends go to and about. I mean, there are things you cannot really talk about with anybody else, right? But you're giving GPT the data, should not do it. But what do you think, like, is it a good thing which has probably come as a tool to us wherein you're not able to talk about this to anybody else, so it's probably giving you some conversation back, it's like someone you're talking to, or is it actually doing more harm than good? What do you
Initially, it honestly appears to be really good, but where will we have the courage to then talk about difficult conversations with another human being?
Yeah.
Because down the line, the fear factor that I'm seeing, especially with young kids, everybody has a name for their own GPT. I know a 12-year-old who was telling, oh, my GPT, I call it Gigi, and and every time I go back to Gigi and say, is this right? What do you think about this? What this boy did is so wrong, and Gigi says yes, and supports me and all of that. So it appears to be good, but ideally this conversation the kid has to do with the mom.
Yeah.
Right. So if we are moving more and more away from the human connections, initially everything will appear rosy, but if it stays rosy forever, it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And we also need to have the strength to bank on relationships, right? I'm seeing that with more of AI, a lot of walls are coming up between human relationships.
Right.
And we are not forcing ourselves to have those small difficult conversations. We are not willing to confront each other. We are not telling people, I see that you're not owning up your swadharma, you're doing someone else's dharma, paradharma. You're not supposed to do that. This is as per your role and identity, you need to do this. How can I help you do this? We're not having those conversations these days.
So do you also think, I mean, I don't know how this is connecting in my head right now, but in one place, newer generations are talking a lot about mental wellness and everything, but on the other, with everything with new technologies, they're moving more into silos.
Yes.
It's how is it like happening parallelly?
Even as a country, we know we've moved from larger extended family system to nuclear families, and not even 2 kids in the families these days.
Correct.
Right. So we are also moving into silos in our own way. The houses are big, but the connection is going less and less and less. So this is how evolution will be. And it's not to grumble about. The world is perfect in its own way. It's just about how do we, even as parents, how can they do the connection before the correction for their children? Right. So it's all about this thing of connecting and understanding the other human being. I think if that's done, it'll be great, because so many kids are open to taking psychiatric medicines these days, and so many parents are willing to support. But even parents don't understand the depth of self-harm thoughts that their child has. ChatGPT knows.
Yeah.
The parents don't know.
Right.
That's the pain difference.
So, in terms of this, because we spoke about parenting a little, what do you think in families? What could be the practice, the ritual, something that can be introduced in families that could help people avoid this situation, which is becoming more and more normal nowadays?
Gary Chapman writes about 5 love languages. Right. So in every family I've seen, even if it's a family of 4 members, each one will have a very different love language. So it's about understanding. So just to quickly call out, right? It's physical touch, acts of service, gifts, words of affirmation, and then quality time. So each
Right.
one's way of giving love or wanting to receive love will be very different. And as a family, if we could understand, okay, this particular kid demands quality time. So when I'm talking with this kid, I'm going to keep my phone aside, laptop aside. Even if it's 10 minutes, I'm going to give that 10 minutes undisturbed time for this kid.
Right.
That kid will feel very loved. If it's a elderly mom, whose love language is acts of service, you cooking a meal for her without her asking is a way to tell, hey, I love you, ma, I'm doing this for you, right?
How sweet.
Those small things, if we could start incorporating, it's going to make it more meaningful.
Right. No, I love that question. And I think it has been a very, very wonderful conversation. But before we move on to the fun segment of the podcast, one last question I would want to ask is, for people who are already going through some internal challenges, the burnout, silently, right? Immediately, what could be the steps that they could on by themselves take, to start probably coming out of it, before, because I think it's a process for them to be able to speak with others on it. So, on an individual personal level, what do you suggest? What are the steps they can take to kind of,
One is putting pen to the paper.
wow,
Journaling is always effective only when we put pen to the paper. The
Right.
hand is directly connected to the heart.
Right.
So when we are writing it out, we bring out our true emotions. Many people say they do journaling on their phone. I've never seen that working in their favor, because we are so used to, typing out messages in a very mechanical way. So when we do journaling on the phone also, it might happen in a very mechanical way.
correct.
Instead, if we could keep a notebook aside, and really put the pen to the paper, we will sit with our emotions. We are, and at least some 10-15 minutes of no phone time, if we could, introduce in our daily routine, that will make us actually sit with ourselves. That will make us understand, can I get help from some other human being? Can I go for therapy? Can I meet, a practitioner who's trained in this space? Can I actually talk to them? Because there are people who are so trained, right? And
Correct.
and currently there is a lot of mental health professionals out there who are waiting
Right.
to help, and confidentiality is a core requirement in mental health space. So we don't need to worry about, oh my god, there's so much of shame here, how can I talk about it? That's what the professionals trained in, and can hold the space, for very difficult conversations to happen. So be it grief or shame or any kind of pain that we are going through, we don't need to struggle alone. We are okay to meet a doctor if we are in viral fever, right?
Yeah.
If we are mentally ill for so many days, why are we not approaching the right people to get help? It's as simple as that.
But also, I would love to kind of for you to elaborate the process of this, because I'll share one example. Seen people see that they spend 4 sessions with somebody and they're like, nothing is coming out of it. I'm not realizing any benefit of me going. I keep blabbering. They keep taking the notes, etc., etc. One tool is given to me and all of that. So I think, do you think is the process always this long? Do you think there are alternate better processes, or are there any specific processes which should be done first? Like, I mean, again, I don't hold a lot of knowledge in this space. So what do you think is or does it take this much time?
See, in mental health space, finally, it is all about the rapport, right, Vanshika? Only if you and me have a rapport, we are able to talk comfortably like this.
100%.
In a similar way, if a person has to talk about their core emotions, difficult emotions, they need to have that rapport with the therapist. If that is not there, nothing wrong in shifting the therapist and figuring out, if they can have the conversation afresh with a different person. If we know that a doctor's medicine is not working, we move to another doctor, right? We say,
Right.
oh, he's prescribing heavy antibiotics and, it's not working for me, and it's okay.
Right.
Yeah, so
I also see this as a business opportunity, in the sense of, imagine if I wanted to do it, right? How many people would I try to find that right match, right? So probably a platform which can help match you with the right mentor, right? Because then again, it becomes a drain to shift from one to other. You somewhere lose that.
many therapists actually offer an initial 15-20 minute, chemistry call.
Okay.
It's called as a chemistry call itself, intake call or chemistry call.
Understand if you all are aligned
To
or not.
understand the language, to understand if the vibes are matching.
Right.
And if we can bank on our intuition to know, am I feeling that inner ting, to work with this therapist, only then work with that therapist. If there is a little uncertainty there, because what happens with the platform is, it's a good business opportunity, I'm not telling no. But if the client is not talking with the end therapist initially, if they are
Right.
directly put into a session, 1 hour session with the therapist, and if the rapport is not there,
You still don't know if it is the
you
right
still
match.
don't know exactly. And how many therapists again you're going to change in the platform?
Correct.
So that initial few minutes that you get with the therapist, or if you're able to track their work, look at what feedback they've got, what are they writing. We use social media for so many other things, right? We can go into the LinkedIn and see what are the therapist credentials, what are they working on, what are the articles that they've written, how qualified they are in the mental health space, and then take a wise call there.
Wow. Wow, I think there have been so many great takeaways from this conversation, and it's been a delight. But from now, we'll move on to the last segment of the podcast. It's slightly fun. We call it the MVP mic drop segment.
Okay.
So there would be, it's not a rapid fire, because I would love for you to elaborate on those questions, but almost like, three probably like more personal questions, and would love the reasoning attached to
Sure.
it, right? So the first question is, what is that one book or podcast that changed your life?
2 books, actually.
I'll give you that.
As I told earlier, You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay, and then The Power of Intention by Wayne Dyer. These 2 books made me understand, what's the sankalpa with which even I'm, doing anything.
Right.
Intention precedes action, right? And in a way, Power of Intention is what brought me back to Bhagavad Gita. And to say,
Wow.
there's so much of wealth available in my backyard, and I was searching for it everywhere in the Western world. So, yeah.
Nice. And so second question is, what is your personal go-to ritual to kind of bring yourself back into the energy, the form, the poise?
So again, 2 things.
First question is going to be, tell me 2 things.
So one is, I'm heavy into dancing. So
Wow.
every time my mood drops, I'll for all TVs are smart TVs, right? I play a nice song in YouTube and do my Zumba
Right.
routine with that. And whenever I move my body and really push myself to dance, my mood immediately shifts.
Wow.
So that's a key go-to routine that I use. The second thing is I go to my terrace. I have a bird watching binoculars that I bought, and I spend time watching, especially when birds are returning to their nests in the evenings.
Wow.
It's so nice to identify, these are a group of parrots. Look at that eagle, it's not flapped its wing for the last 3 minutes, or
Wow.
just looking at these birds are extremely like open-eyed meditation for me.
This is so new. Dancing, yes, it's a let out for so many people,
Yeah.
but wow, love it. And the last question is, what do you wish that one thing is taken out of the corporate, out of the work environment, which can just make it like a much, much, much happier place? One belief, one trait which is grained in people.
There's so much of fear in the corporates, and it's almost like everybody is working as almost as if a guillotine sword is hung above their head.
Yeah.
I wish if they could let go of that fear there and just enjoy, tell what big deal, if this is my last day, this is my last day.
Yeah.
Can I go to work every day as if this is my last day and give my best?
Right.
Right, it can either be the first day or the last day, but just be happy there. We don't need to. There's always a fear of when is the last day going to be. If the HR, when an email comes from the HR, or if there is a call from the HR, people are so nervous, they're panicky, and they're like, what if they're going to ask me to pack my bags?
Right.
We don't need to always live in that mode. That's one thing that I hope people can move away from. The other thing I would say is, we're all value-driven people at some core. If you see, we had moral sciences in our school in those days, right? And most of us follow the core human values, be it honesty, or I'll not tell lies, or, I'll not steal from others, or this is how this is the individual I am. If we can hold on to that with a lot of integrity and authenticity and just be who we are, and then define some boundaries, be assertive about it, we'll enjoy life at the end of the day.
That is so beautiful. That is actually beautiful. So, Anurama ma'am, it has been an amazing conversation with you. But before we actually end the conversation, what would be that one thing that you would want to tell our audience?
So I will want to go back to Mandukya Upanishad. Mandukya Upanishad
Wow.
calls out different states of consciousness. It goes to Om, Oma, and how it explains, and it relates it back to consciousness. It says this is Jagrata Avastha, the waking state, and the pain and suffering we go through when we are in the waking state, and then Swapna Avastha, the dream state, and the pain, the suffering we go through, the joys in the dream state. Sushupti, the deep sleep state. But then it says beyond everything is a drashta. Drashta is like the silence. Everything starts from the silence and ends back in the silence, right?
Wow.
Like that drashta is the core of all the different states. And drashta is where there is this unattached observer who's just a sakshi baba, who's just there looking. So once in a while, if we could take the space of just being the drashta, looking at our own lives as an unattached observer and seeing what is happening to this person.
Third person perspective.
Yeah, from a third person perspective, just the drashta bhava.
Yeah.
If you could take that repeatedly to say, are they going in the right direction? Are they following their dharma? Are they living up to their swara? Are they really owning up, their swadharma? Are they being in that samatvam? What can help them?
Wow.
If they are in Shankatam, just calling it out, telling, hey, you're putting yourself repeatedly in that space of unnecessary conflicts. Just that unattached observer space. I think if everybody could practice that, it's going to help them really quick.
I love this. I mean, there couldn't be a better way to kind of, end the podcast. This was amazing. Thank you so much for bringing so much clarity, so much insight, depth to this conversation for our audience, for me. I think, there's just already so many takeaways for me personally. And I would urge all the people, this conversation, if you got a takeaway, do something to work on your mental wellness. Something probably this week, because we have to take the steps promptly to be able to bring that change in our lives. And if you love this conversation, do share it with a leader, a person who you think needs to hear this, right? This has been amazing. Thank you so much for coming here, taking the time, and for this conversation.
Thank you for this lovely space. I really enjoyed every minute with you today, Vanshika. Thank you so much.
Thank you.